Hey y'all, it's Jade, and I want to talk to y'all about a different topic. Not like a Bible study, but it still would be biblically sound. I want to challenge this idea that shows up a lot in spaces of healing, growth, self development. And it's this: trauma automatically makes a person wise. Trauma does not make a person wise. Trauma does not make a person automatically devoted to God. Trauma does not automatically make that person the most knowledgeable in the room because it said trauma. Trauma is not a teacher. Trauma is a lesson. Trauma is an experience. And sometimes we can confuse experience with wisdom. Trauma is not the same as wisdom. It's not the same as wisdom. Just because you've experienced something doesn't mean you're healed from it. It doesn't mean you're the most knowledgeable of it. It doesn't mean because you've endured it that you've actually gained understanding from it. A lot of us have experienced traumas, and as we've experienced trauma, some of us have navigated through it by talking through it. Some of us have navigated by acting as if it did not happen. Some of us have navigated by saying, you know what, if I just think myself happy, if I think myself whole, I'm good. That doesn't mean that you are wise. Trauma, when we think about it in its essence, in the nature of trauma affects the inner person's identity, right? It affects a person's emotions. It affects how they see themselves, how they view others. It'll make them bitter. It'll make them feel a sense of unworthiness. It'll make them feel like they're never good enough for love. It'll make them feel shame and guilt. All of these different things come from trauma. Now, what makes a person that experienced trauma and also a person that we would say is wise? A person that has a trauma, and if I was to consider them as wise, it'll be because of how they walked with God through their trauma. Not necessarily because they had a trauma, but because of what they did after the trauma. If that makes sense, right? When we think about Adam and Eve, when Adam and Eve sinned, that was a traumatic experience. How do I know? Because their response after they sinned was they hid from God. After they sinned, they hid from God. They covered themselves up. They internally was most likely feeling shame because they covered themselves up when God didn't even let them know they needed to be covered up. When they were hiding from God, when they were once dwelling with God in a peaceful, free state. Now that they've experienced said trauma, they did not want to be seen by God. So they covered up. They hid. They were ashamed. They felt a lot of guilt. Those are the initial responses that comes when you experience trauma. You have depression, you have anxiety, you have fear. Now, a person that has all of those things, they have a decision to make after said trauma. How do you want to respond to the trauma? How do you want to respond to what happened to you, though it wasn't your fault, right? How do you want to respond to what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what happened to your body, what did not happen to your body? How do you want to respond? And most times when we look in the Bible and we see people that have experienced trauma, what sets them apart from someone else that has a trauma is because they continue to walk with God through their trauma. Does it erase their trauma? No. But because they decided to walk with God through their trauma, they developed a level of depth, understanding, compassion, discernment, and wisdom because they are walking with God. Job experienced the trauma of losing not just his riches, but he lost his children. Job lost everything. And what does Job do in his trauma? He asks God all of the deep, tough questions. He stayed in God's face. He didn't beautify the questions. He stayed in God's face because he knew, I don't know how to get myself out of this by myself. But God, I got some questions for you. I got some things I need you to help me understand and to unpack. So because of Job's posture with his trauma, did it erase the impacts of it? No. He still cried. He still mourned. He still had people in his ear telling him he's crazy for going to talk to God. But he decided to walk with God. And because he decided to walk with God, he got deeper in God. When we think about people that experience trauma, and we go listen to these podcasts of people that's been through such hard things, it's also important to pay attention to not just how quickly they got over their situation, or how social media perfect it sounds, and how culturally good it sounds, and how much you like their personality. But it's also important to listen to see, did you walk with God through what you went through? You experienced trauma, but where was God in the midst of it? Did you turn your back on him? Are you actually healed from what you said? Do you fully understand what happened? Do you fully understand him more? Do you even have a peace that surpasses understanding? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because as someone that has experienced trauma, and people look at me like, you're very wise, this wisdom did not come free. It came from a place of pain. My pain made me go seeking wisdom. My pain made me go seek understanding. Scripture says, for all thy doing, get an understanding. If you want wisdom, ask for it. And truthfully, when I was in a lot of experiences of traumatic experiences, I knew God from my parents. I knew God from the church. I'm a preacher's kid, so I grew up around it. I knew what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pray, you're supposed to fast, you're supposed to read your scripture. But did I know God intimately for me? Did I know God personally for me? In those moments, no. Because I hid from him. I did not want him to see me. I knew what it meant to have God see you and you experience trauma. I knew what it meant. And though I knew he wasn't going to ever change who he was about me, I still did not want him to see me because I felt shame and guilt. I felt like he wouldn't have need of me anymore. I felt like I was too broken. I was damaged goods. I felt like there was nothing good that can come out of someone that had the traumas that I had. So I hid from God. Or better yet, I would make it seem like I was okay. So I would compartmentalize. If I was in one space, I would make sure I show up a certain way. If I was in another, I made sure I showed up a certain way. So that no one could ever see that I was actually broken. I was actually trying to navigate through something I had no understanding of. And it wasn't until it got to a point where I knew I couldn't smart my way out of what I was feeling. I couldn't affirm myself out of the way I was feeling. I couldn't manifest myself out of how I was feeling. I knew I had to have God confront me about it. And when you really allow God to see you in your trauma and confront what you tried to sweep under the rug, and confront what you were hurting from, and confront what you were not wanting to address, it's an unraveling. It's an undoing. It's almost like you're learning a person, or you're finally allowing a person to surface that you were trying to muzzle and push to the back for so long. Like you did not want anyone to ever see that person. You did not want anyone to ever know that person was there. You did not want anyone to ever know that you are subtly, subconsciously stuck in that situation, though your life has moved on. That as much as you're trying to forget the past is still loud, though you keep trying to act as though you don't hear it. You're trying to have selective hearing. You're trying to have selective memory. See, when it comes to trauma, and it comes to someone being wise about navigating trauma, it's not always the person that's the loudest to talk about it first that's wise. It's not always the person that's bold enough to talk about it first that is wise. Sometimes it's the person that had to sit with it for a long time and let God sit with them in it. And ask God, okay, God, how did this happen? Show me what came up. Show me where it wasn't me. Because God, I don't know if it was me or if it was just bad paths colliding. There's something that people ask me all the time when it comes to my traumas. And they ask me, how am I able to forgive and pray for those that, came against me, those that trespassed against me, those that hurt me. And I truthfully say, because I sought the Lord in those moments of trauma. Because I was seeking God, because I knew I was falling into a deep place that I could not get myself out of, he left my heart tender and he gave me empathy for those that hurt me. Am I giving them an excuse to have hurt me? No. Am I writing them off and, pardoning them from what they did? No. But I'm saying God humanized them for me. And as God humanized them, I was able to pray for them. I was able to see where, though I was living my life and they was living our life, how our paths crossed and collateral damage happened. It's this series on Netflix that just came out, The Witness. And it's a scene where the son and the father are at the table, and the father gets all these documentation about where the police went wrong with the investigation. And the son is basically telling his father, or like humanizing the person that killed his mother. And he ends up telling his father, I can see how he could do this. And he's like, I had a 2-parent household. I had parents that loved me, that cared for me, that every time I made a mistake, they were there to help me get out of that mistake. He didn't. And that's the same way I feel about people that has hurt me. That I came from a household that was rooted in the faith. I came from a household of married parents that loved each other healthy. I came from a family of love. I came from a family that wasn't toxic. And because I had that around me, it wasn't hard for me to empathize with someone that did not have that same environment. I can see why that person would do such a thing. I can see why that person reacted and responded like that. I can see why that person thought it was okay to do such thing. And this might sound crazy to somebody because you're like, but they did this and this and this. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying, because I sought the Lord and walked with the Lord through my trauma, he's given me wisdom and compassion to those that's hurt me. He's given me empathy towards them. He's helped me to humanize them. Because a lot of them did not have a household of love, or better yet, have a stable household. A lot of them weren't even raised in church, or better yet, had a praying grandmother. A lot of them did not have what I had. Does that make what they did right? No. But it helps me understand their choice. Now, how does that help me heal from my trauma? It helps me no longer put myself in the predicament of I asked for it, or better yet, that was my fault, to the moment of 2 lives cross paths and collateral damage happened. Was I doing what I was supposed to do in that point in my life? No. Was I fully sold out and said yes to God? No. Did I know I was supposed to say yes to God? Yes. But my permissive will, me doing what I wanted to do, and them in their free will, we crossed paths and we made damage to both parties. It just so happened that the damage that happened to me caused me to draw near to God through questions. It made me draw near to God through curiosity, through frustration, through disappointment, through hurt. Because the thing about trauma is this. Yes, you experience something, and though trauma wants to make you rewrite who God is never changing. God never changed when he had to address Joseph. He never changed when he had to address David. He never changed when he had to address Ruth. He never changed when he had to address the Samaritan woman or Hannah. He was the same God. Same in character, same in being, same in love. Now, what does that mean for us? And when it comes to the enemy trying to cause us to use trauma to create lies and distance ourselves from God, it means that every lie that is given to us after we experience something traumatic, we have to tell that lie who God is. Because God never said you was worthless. God never said that you were a mistake. God never said that you were unlovable. God never said that he didn't want you. God never said that you had to hide from him. God never said don't come near him unless you are clean. Matter of fact, he said because you are unclean, come near. Because you are weary and heavy laden, come to me and I will give you rest. Because you are heavy and you have anxiety, cast it all on me. That's what God said. But our situations will make us rewrite that. If you have experienced trauma, do not allow trauma to rewrite who God is. Instead, take all of your questions to God. God can handle the tough questions. You don't got to make it cute or beautify it. He can handle them because he knows what happened. He knows. And sometimes all he is waiting for is you to have a conversation with him. Because it's in the questions that takes you deeper and closer to him. Trauma is not a teacher, but it's about what you do with the trauma that becomes the teacher. Trauma is just a tool. And tools can be used for good or bad.